Gideon Baker rarely got excited or annoyed. He'd learned this useful skill by being the youngest son in a large, very large family. The seventh son, with 6 sisters younger than he was, made for a lot of opportunities to learn self-control. It hadn't helped him that much with his first marriage, but he'd been young, and he had learned not to try that again. Marriage was for people not like him. He would also give his family some of the credit for helping to hone his skills as a private investigator. All of his siblings were good at finding out stuff about each other and others. In his family, secrets were hard to keep. As a PI, he avoided the really nasty jobs. Like soiled diapers, the stench hung around for way too long. He'd had enough of those in his life, too. His focus was on the domestic, mostly routine stuff for divorce lawyers. Zach, his dad, wasn't too impressed, even if he was a fan of the Perry Mason show. "I'm their Paul Drake, their guy to find out things," Gideon had pointed out to Zach too many times to recall. He had a small stable of lawyers that kept him as busy as he wanted to be. "Hardly," Zach had said with a look of dismissive affection that only a dad could deploy. He didn't feel very Paul or Drake today. The case had seemed a fairly easy one. Track down the missing husband, which should lead to the money he was hiding from his wife in the court. Husbands getting ready to divorce their wives often tried to hide money. Not so often they hid themselves, he admitted. But this guy had an additional reason to hide. He'd gotten crosswise with Cinzia Calvino. Aligned with one of the local wise guy families, it wasn't yet clear just how deep Cinzia was in the family business or how deep Emil Vincent was in Calvino Brown stuff. The evidence wasn't good, however, since the guy had gone missing. At least that was his working theory. Gideon was rather proud of himself for picking up this hint of a trail. Instead of focusing on the man, he'd started looking for the car. It was sad the car was more memorable than Vincent, but facts were facts. Vincent was a small, weedy type with indeterminate coloring. Gideon glanced at the photo of the gray-blue 1959 Peugeot 403 Cabriolet convertible. This was only one of many photos of the car. There'd been only one photo of Vincent. People could forget a face, a name, even the made-up ones, but not that car. It was the Columbo car. Oh, it wasn't the exact car. That was on a movie lot in California, and this car wasn't, at least in the photo, beat up like the Columbo version. So, in following said car, he'd arrived in the back of the Beyond Louisiana, standing in the weed-choked yard of Savoie Salvage. Salvage seemed a bit too upscale for this place. It was a junkyard, no more, no less. Not a great place to be when it was hot and humid. It had been both in New Orleans when he left, but this felt worse. The muggy air pressing suffocatingly close. And there were bugs. The low hum competing with the distant sound of cars speeding down the freeway. Speeding away from here, lucky dogs. Memo to self, don't take cases in August, ever. The junkyard looked deserted. Gideon supposed there was a kind of order in the piles of partially stripped cars and vehicle parts, of the cliched kind. It was as if Savoie had tried to make it look like every junkyard ever seen on television. Narrow paths meandered between teetering, but a modest 4 or 5 high, towers of varyingly damaged and rusted vehicles. There were additional sad vehicles randomly dotting the non-stacked areas, possibly waiting for their turn to join the stacks. The only non-damaged, though still sad-looking, transportation was a forklift and a normal car that looked like it wondered what it was doing here and when it could get out.